Marky Billson here. Next guest, station CEO kind of arranged this for you. I mentioned this Mark Pilling, who is the head coach of a semi-pro football team in the Gridiron Developmental Football League called the Erie Express, which you may say this has absolutely no interest in East Tennessee. You might be right. However, I was kind of intrigued by the fact that you had 7,000 Facebook followers on your semi-pro team up there in Erie, Pennsylvania, and also that your last game was a defeat in the GDFL semifinals to Middle Tennessee Bulldogs. That was their nickname over, obviously, I think it was Murfreesboro, Tennessee. So please welcome Mark Pilling to our program. I guess, hey, there's a Tennessee team playing for a championship. Yes, it's against a team, I think, from Oklahoma, and it will be played in Joplin, Missouri. But I am kind of curious, hey, you just played a Tennessee team, so even if they are in Middle Tennessee, tell us a little bit about the team that you played in your last game that dealt you, for you, a disappointing defeat.
It was very disappointing. We were actually the number one team in the league and in the nation by some of the polls, and we were actually down 25-6 going into the third quarter, and we came back and took the lead with 3 minutes left, and it was 27-25. And my cornerback that had already had 2 interceptions during the game went and slipped, and guy got past him, and they scored with about 40 seconds left in the game. This is the second time we've played them, and similar results happened last year as well. They're a great quality team, speed upon speed. Very impressive team.
Well, you mentioned to me that your team featured the likes of, say, Maurice Williams, who was a former wide receiver at University of Pittsburgh, and it wasn't uncommon for you to have Division I players on your team. Do you know of any players from, say, Tennessee, Vanderbilt, that sort of thing, East Tennessee State, who were on Middle Tennessee?
There was I don't know the names off the top of my head. I do know there was a few Middle Tennessee guys, and I believe Tennessee. There was a couple guys from Tennessee Tech as well.
Okay, so those are middle.
Off the top of my head.
Those are Middle Tennessee schools, but it gives you the idea of what sort of graduated player, if I may say so, is playing semi-pro football. Now, I wanted to ask you about some of the challenges of your league and all this, and just tell me a little bit. I've covered this league, and a lot of these guys are people that, from I've found, feel that they love football, but maybe they felt like they didn't get a fair shake in college. The guy who sat on the bench, let's say, or maybe somebody who really maybe didn't even have a college career and is looking to try to continue his football career. Those were some of the guys that I would be covering when I covered the sport for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Tell me a little bit about what the type of semi-pro football player is that you're getting today, Mark Pilling.
Well, I'm going to say 95% of my roster have all played college football.
Okay.
1-2 years. Some of them have graduated and didn't get that shot professionally, and they're looking for film in that. When I started the team 10 years ago, my first thing was to take the semi out of semi-pro. That was my mantra from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And, I mean, there's some bad leagues out there. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
But there are some great quality leagues, great quality teams that a young family just wanting to have some fun and at an inexpensive rate can go and watch a good football game and have a great time as a family. Player-wise, like I said, we've had, let's see, at the total right now, we just had another one signed. We have 65 professional contracts signed off of my roster in 10 years.
That's pretty impressive. And that's, I guess, a reason why you would like to go out for the semi-pro team. I know, I guess it's Darnell Denkins is probably the last famous semi-pro player that I can think of that went from those ranks, and he earned a Super Bowl ring as a backup tight end for the New Orleans Saints. He actually signed with the Giants and he became Jeremy Shockey's really close friend, and so Shockey went to the Saints.
Another one from down in your old neck of the woods is Darius Prince.
Mm-hmm.
I tried recruiting him left and right. I almost had him. He ended up signing with an arena team in Lockhaven, I believe it was.
Mm-hmm.
Did so well there. Signed with the Philadelphia Soul. He's had numerous NFL, and he was also in that now defunct AFA league. He went to San Antonio there, but he actually just played in the championship game for the Philadelphia Soul again.
Okay, yeah, we've been talking a little bit about that with the Albany Empire winning it, because I know that their coach talked about how Albany is made for, or is just right for arena football, and you kind of get that idea, mid-sized market, needs a team of their own. There's no big college team in Albany, that sort of thing, and in fact, you start thinking of sports in Albany, and you say, wait a minute, there's the Empire, and then what? That sort of thing. And I guess, is that kind of an advantage for you up there in Erie, Pennsylvania? I mean, I know there's a minor league baseball team. Historically, there's been minor league hockey. And I know, but, Gannon, they play at a D2 level, that sort of thing. What about the market size? How important is it to be in the right city for a semi-pro football team?
Oh, absolutely. You're correct there. I started my career in semi-pro with where I live now, Jamestown, New York. And the quality of player, just from the different markets, and we're about 50 miles away from Erie, is night and day. Most of the kids of that first team that I was with never played college. They were all high school guys trying to just keep going.
Yeah.
Now I think I have two guys that didn't play college on my roster in Erie. And they had to prove it. We have a combine every year, and they flashed, and so we gave them a shot.
That really is impressive that you'd have that many former college players. I'm talking to Mark Pilling. He's a semi-pro football coach up with the Erie Express. And you mentioned you had been in Jamestown, New York before. Speaking of upstate New York, are you familiar at all with Watertown Black and Red?
Actually, yes. We played them once with that Jamestown team.
Okay, now what I wanted to ask is, for people who aren't familiar, Watertown Black and Red, I believe they trace their history back to 1896, which for a semi-pro football team is unheard of. I mean, it's unheard of for a major sports franchise in most cases. Sure, you'll have baseball teams and all that, but consider this. The oldest team in the NFL, it's moved a couple of times, but the Arizona Cardinals, 1898 is when they started up. This is a semi-pro team that began before then, and it's so difficult because, you don't own your own stadium. You're not, who are the players? You're not, these aren't contracts where they're going to come back to make $1 million the next year. And who are the fans and all that? How does a semi-pro team, I'm going to mention Watertown Black and Red just as an example, but even your own, how does it continue to go on?
Well, from one, great sponsors. People have to remember, semi-pro, these guys aren't making any money.
Yeah.
Coaches or players. So if they're working full-time jobs, taking care of their families, and doing this on the side, hoping for that shot, most of them are. And you just have to, we go with sponsors, small player fees, and stadium attendance to pay the bills.
So you're just, like I said, you told me that, boy, if we had beaten Middle Tennessee, getting to Joplin, Missouri might have been difficult for us and all this. But yes, I know. I mean, it's not a team bus that you're taking. The guys are driving their own cars to the road games. Is that correct?
Yes. We were going to get a bus
and even keep this in mind when a semi-pro team starts to lose. I mean, a lot of times they will disband. I mean, you don't usually see a lot of 1-9 or 0-10 team because by that time it's like, what am I doing this for? You know, I mean, there isn't even the glory of victory and all this. So teams do really come and go, and it is the strong truly do survive. But when that happens and all that, I'm concerned because let's say you have a 12-game schedule, just to throw something out there, and there's a team that's 0-10, and suddenly they're not getting enough guys to come out, and the guys that are, you know, I don't really want to get beat up. I don't have any depth here. I mean, I've never played defensive back in my life. I'm a running back. What are you doing? You know, something of this nature. And I'm just sort of curious what incentives there are that you can have to have some of those bottom feeders that you really need to complete the league stay on.
Well, that's why we actually jumped to the GDFL.
Mm-hmm.
It's been a well-established league, and the league we were in prior, we did run into that, where up till Friday night, we were having a game, and then all of a sudden we'd get a call on a Saturday morning, say, yeah, we don't have enough guys, so just going to have to take a forfeit. We did our research and found the GDFL. They'd actually been recruiting us for the last couple of years, and it just was a match made because that's all they will allow in is quality teams that you're not going to run into that.
So you have that. Though, is it better financially for you if I use a wrestling term, old pro wrestling here? You know, it used to be that pro wrestling was all territorial. They might say you had a world champion, but it was really, you know, the champion of the TV studio in Portland or something like that. And I'm thinking, because a lot of these leagues, you know, no, you don't have quite the money to go out to San Francisco to play a team right there or whatever. Question, though, being, would it be better served if semi-pro football was more territorial?
Well, that's what GDFL is actually all about.
Mm-hmm.
The league that I was mentioning prior, a number of those teams are actually coming on to the GDFL, so we're going to have a good team base out of Ohio, New York, and PA, and there already is a well-established base in Tennessee. I believe there's 3 teams.
Yeah.
Middle and Western. Alabama, there's 2 or 3 teams.
There's one in Huntsville, for instance. And the league is actually headquartered in Memphis, I believe, which, again, I told you, that's like for you saying, oh, the league, yeah, sure, it's in Tennessee. It's in, you know, it's in Philly for you, being in Erie and all that. Sort of like, well, you know what, I'm not sure that's really doing us a lot of good here, you know, that sort of thing. But sending our taxes to the same state capital, that's about it, you know. But, no, what we get to is, no, I do understand that. And the team, like I said, in Tri-Cities, there's one in Cookeville, it was. I can't figure out what the other 2 cities near Cookeville are, but regardless. Then there's Middle Tennessee, you play Huntsville is another team and all that. None necessarily in this area. I know Andy Slagle, who's been a friend of the show, has had semi-pro football involvement himself, and he went on to experiment with arena football as well as rugby. More recently, that's what he's been playing here. Stay in shape. Hey, I wanted, though, to ask you this when you're in semi-pro. What do you think the future is for semi-pro football? I mean, you mentioned, and I see on the league website, tryouts to the arena leagues, to, you know, maybe the XFL, I mean, you know, Canadian Football League, that sort of thing. But do you ever think there could be a real developmental with the NFL, you know, that sort of thing?
Well, it all takes the money from the NFL to create that, first off. I think it would be, to be honest, a great idea because there's a lot of talent out there that has been missed. Granted, the NFL has great talent evaluators. They've got all the computers and everything, study everybody left and right. There's always those few guys that slip through the cracks that could be key contributors. And I would love to see it. And I think from all the new leagues that you are seeing come about, granted the AFA out, and the continued stretch of arena teams, I think sometime in the future they should take a look at it, and I think it would be beneficial for everybody around.
Let's say I want to start a semi-pro team in the Tri-Cities, Tennessee area. Let's say I want to go into the Gridiron Developmental Football League. Okay, just use it. Why not? And it's good as any, right there. What do I need to do? I'll give you certain examples, things that I know that happen to semi-pro football teams. I mean, just stadium issues, or even a heavy rain comes and, oh, wait, here's your check back. I don't care who you're going to play. We don't want you screwing up our field today. I've seen that happen and all that. What do I, if you're saying, okay, Marky, Billson, you be the entrepreneur, how would one go about setting up a team in the Tri-Cities for the Gridiron Developmental Football League?
Well, I've got excellent experience at that.
Yeah.
The first thing is don't try to do it all yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I did have to do that the first year or two, but you learn as you go, and right now, I guarantee you I have the best coaching staff in semi-pro. Quality guys that have had national championships in